I'm James Ford, and I'm the guiding teacher of Moon Zen and one of the two consulting ministers for the First Unitarian Church of Los Angeles. Today is the last day of the year of our Lord 2021. I'm not going to say good riddance, at least not without some qualifications. For many of us, it's been hard, no doubt, and there's not a lot of evidence it's going to get much better anytime soon. But in the waning hours of 2021, I find my heart going back to Mary Oliver's poem, The Buddha's Last Instruction. Make yourself a light, said the Buddha before he died. I think of this every morning as the east begins to tear off its many clouds of darkness to send up the first signal, a white fan streaked with pink and violet, even green. An old man, he lay down between two sala trees, and he might have said anything. Knowing it was his final hour, the light burns upward, it thickens and settles over the fields. Around him, the villagers gathered and stretched forward to listen. Even before the sun itself hangs disattached in the blue air, I am touched everywhere by its oceans of yellow waves. No doubt he thought of everything that had happened in his difficult life. And then I feel the sun itself as it blazes over the hills like a million flowers on fire. Clearly, I'm not needed, yet I feel myself turning into something of inexplicable value. Slowly, beneath the branches, he raised his head. He looked into the faces of that frightened crowd. I think of that frightened crowd. There's a lot to be frightened about, and some words of comfort and maybe joy. We do get people who come along and share a word of hope for us. Every generation produces several. This year, several of them died. Desmond Tutu, beloved Anglican bishop, hero of South Africa, and a guide for all of us, certainly is one. But the one who immediately comes to mind for me is Hans Kung, who died back in April. A flood of thoughts. In 1993, 100 years after the renowned World Parliament of Religions met in Chicago, a second parliament gathered. The highlight for many was an address by the Dalai Lama, and certainly a worthy thing. For me, however, the most important thing to come out of that gathering was the document Towards a Global Ethic. The principal author was the Roman Catholic priest and scholar Hans Kung. Father Kung was sometimes something of a controversial figure within his church. I once heard him described as the Catholic Church's finest Lutheran thinker. He was actually considered one of ecumenical Christian community's finest minds. The document declares there are, quote, 4 broad, ancient guidelines for human behavior which are found in most of the religions of the world, which it listed as irrevocable directives for those of us who would find peace on and for our planet. The document was signed by 200 religious leaders representing, if not officially, pretty much all the world's religions. It included Christians, Jews, Muslims, Taoists, Jains, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Zoroastrians, members of the Baha'i community, and Native Americans and many other earth-centered traditions. The Dalai Lama signed it, as did, I'm delighted to note, my old mentor, the Buddhist scholar Masao Abe. These irrevocable directives were, I should say, are 1, a commitment to a culture of nonviolence and respect for life. 2, a commitment to a culture of solidarity and a just economic order. 3, a commitment to a culture of tolerance and a life of truthfulness. And 4, a commitment to a culture of equal rights and partnership between men and women. I'm deeply moved by this analysis, which I think cuts through the fog of the conservative parts of religion, that part which is meant to sustain and transmit a particular culture, defining an inside and an outside, an us and a them, and which is often the part of religion used as a club to beat people into compliance. Instead, really, this succeeds at pointing to the radical heart of pretty much all religions. That part which opens us to the finest of what it means to be human, located within and among, fully celebrating all as a part of some mysterious whole that claims our allegiance. More, claims our very lives. The first of the directives, a grand intuition of our deep humanity, is that in spite of our natural proclivities to violence, there is always the possibility of a better way. The second tells us we genuinely are responsible for each other and how our lives need to take that deep truth into account. The third points to our need for broad tolerance, which is found within our commitment to genuine honesty with ourselves and with each other. And finally, that fourth, so buried in so many religions, but implicit at their heart, that women and men need each other and can only heal from the wounds of life when we see we are all in it together as equals. I would add that the issues of sexual minorities are bound up with this last assertion inevitably, inextricably. The only thing missing is a clear statement, seeing beyond the wounds of race. Sadly, it is a big thing missing. Small wonder the Zen peacemakers founded by the late Roshi Bernie Glassman and other members of the White Plama Sangha have adopted it as a principal document. And my own community's Boundless Way Zen first and now Empty Moon Zen, with some tweaking of the language to address our own sense of the need to fix that one missing point, as well as gender issues of the hard binaries, by explicitly including people of every race and condition, sharing this small and fragile planet, trying to capture that fullness through the phrase, all people. It takes us to a core document. I commit myself to a culture of nonviolence and reverence for life. I commit myself to a culture of solidarity and a just economic order. I commit myself to a culture of acceptance and a life based on truthfulness. And I commit myself to a culture of equal rights and partnership among all people. Here, with these four commitments, I feel we find something terribly important being held up. It is a call to a life of authenticity and truth. And it shows a way of healing for hearts and mending a world torn by strife. And certainly, this is something representing much of the heart of the Zen way, at least as I've come to understand that way of holiness and care through attention to the totally ordinary. For me, this document and its four irrevocables take us from ink on paper into our actual lived lives. There is a Japanese saying, Gyoku Furi, which means practice and study are not two. And these four deceptively single statements, these four commitments, are a pretty good way to find how that practice and our investigation of the deep matter are in fact not two. And there's a story from the Desert Fathers and Mothers that feels especially apt in this moment, the moment of great turning. We have the vow. What do we do with it? Abba Lot went to Abba Joseph. He told him that he found the rule a simple thing, not unlike the four commitments. He prayed, he fasted, he dove into the great silences, the authentic way into the deep, seeking the balance between austerities and licentiousness, the true middle way. What more can I do? He asked. Abba Joseph stretched out his hand to heaven and he said, why not become fire? and the fingers on his hands became 10 flaming lamps. I think of that story. In the collections of these desert parents, there actually aren't a lot of miracles. Oh, demons come and go, and the odd angel. But for the most part, we're left to fend for ourselves, as ourselves. Hence the various rules. Hence the 5 commitments. But really, there is one more step. It's kin to this story. It's kin to the rich young man who went to Jesus and also said he kept the commandments, but felt some lack. And Jesus replied, "Sell all you have, give it to the poor, and come, follow me." It's kin to those frightened faces knowing the Holy One was dying, and they would be alone. Left only with stories. Left only with a handful of practices. And here we are, another year dying, something new birthing. Will it be a monster? Will it be an angel? Will it be fire? Here's a secret, just for you. It's in your hands. Happy